If you walked across the Earth roughly 40,000 years ago, you would not have found a planet belonging to one type of human. You would have been sharing the landscape with a bizarre, diverse collection of entirely different human species, living side by side. Some possessed short, powerful bodies built for extreme cold, sustaining injuries similar to modern rodeo riders from hunting massive prey at close range. Others lived on remote islands and shrank to astonishingly small sizes. And some populations are so scarce in the fossil record, we only know what their faces looked like by deciphering the genetic ghosts they left behind. Today, Homo sapiens are the only ones left. We are not the oldest, we are not the strongest, we didn't survive the longest. We are simply the last ones standing. Nature did not produce humanity in a single perfected blueprint. Evolution ran a messy, branching set of parallel experiments.
It constantly tested different bodies, different brains, and entirely different sets of tools to see what could survive the pressures of a highly dangerous planet. These extinct humans were deeply adapted to their environments. They knew how to hunt, build, and survive. And the fact that every single one of those parallel branches disappeared leaves us with a deeply unsettling question about what survival actually requires. Take Homo erectus. Their bodies were a brilliant answer to the problem of open land. With long legs and shorter arms, they were built for running and covering massive distances across wide open terrain. That adaptation worked spectacularly well. They were among the very first humans to spread out of Africa, reaching deep into Asia. They survived for well over 1 million years. To put that in perspective, they existed for far longer than modern humans have even been a species. But around 110,000 years ago, their track record hit a wall. In places like the island of Java, the global climate became highly unstable. Forests aggressively expanded and then retreated. River systems completely shifted. The animals they hunted moved away. Homo erectus vanished shortly after. Enduring for 1 million years offers no protection if a biological frame optimized for one specific landscape suddenly finds itself standing in a totally different, rapidly shifting environment. People often picture Neanderthals as slow, lumbering cave dwellers. The anatomy tells a different story. They possessed wide chests and thick bone structures, biological features strictly tailored to retain heat in environments where a drop in temperature meant death. They were highly intelligent problem solvers. They utilized complex hunting strategies, controlled fire, manufactured sophisticated arrays of stone tools, and cared for the badly injured members of their groups for hundreds of thousands of years. Further east lived the Denisovans. They were closely related to Neanderthals, but adapted to high, thin air environments across Asia and the Tibetan Plateau. Their physical record is so scarce that for years our entire understanding rested on a single tiny finger bone found in a remote cave. Both of these species shared a fatal vulnerability. Their immense physical specializations meant they lived in extremely small populations, thinly spread over vast, hostile distances. They were highly localized. When groups are that small and disconnected, they lose their margin for error. A prolonged bad winter, a disease outbreak, or a slight drop in the birth rate for a few generations can entirely erase a local population. Once a pocket disappears, there is no neighboring group close enough to replace them. Pure physical strength and deep biological specialization become severe liabilities. When the planet subjects an isolated population to a stress test, they have no reinforcements to draw upon. On the Indonesian island of Flores, isolation pushed human biology to an even stranger extreme. Scientists discovered the remains of Homo floresiensis, an ancient human species that stood barely a meter tall. Isolated islands follow bizarre evolutionary rules, causing large animals to shrink over time in a process called island dwarfism. These tiny humans survived in an incredibly constrained ecosystem. They hunted dwarf elephants while sharing that confined space with massive predators, like giant birds and Komodo dragons. Being locked into a tiny, closed island ecosystem means extinction does not require a global catastrophe. A single local disruption, a volcanic eruption, a sudden drop in fresh water,
or a sharp decline in prey is enough to snap the chain of survival. It is the ultimate evolutionary trap. When you are highly adapted to compete for just one small patch of Earth, and that specific ecosystem fails, you have absolutely nowhere else to run. So why did modern humans survive when the others collapsed? It is highly tempting to claim we possessed superior individual intelligence or unmatched physical prowess. The fossil record shows that simply is not true. Our defining advantage was our behavior. Homo sapiens possessed an unparalleled ability to form massive, interconnected social networks that spanned across totally different geographies and environments. If a prolonged drought made one valley uninhabitable, people could migrate and integrate with groups in another. If one band invented a highly effective tool, it did not stay trapped in a single cave. It was traded and shared. Even if a local population died out, the knowledge itself was preserved in the wider web. We also benefited heavily from sheer chance. We happened to have the right population numbers, living in the right geographical locations, at exactly the right moments when the global climate became chaotic. Behavioral flexibility and social connection allowed us to absorb global shocks. When the planet violently rearranged itself, a networked species could bend. The isolated, highly specialized groups simply broke. There was no single decisive war where modern humans arrived and conquered the rest of Earth. Instead, the other human species lost 1,000 small, quiet battles against shifting climates, deep isolation, and time. In many cases, their extinction was not entirely absolute. Small, remaining populations of Neanderthals and Denisovans were absorbed into migrating groups of Homo sapiens. Today, the genetic code locked deep in our own biology acts as the final monument to their existence. We need to abandon the idea that we sit at the peak of an evolutionary ladder. We are just the last living branch on a tree that used to be dense with different ways of being human. The disappearance of our ancient family members carries a stark reality check. Extinction does not only claim the weak, it claims the highly specialized, the inflexible, and the isolated. It's a harsh rule of survival, one the last human species must remember.